Hi, today we're going to look at the economic climate, and in this video we'll explain what the economy is and what affects our economy. So what is the economy? Well, it's just a collection of every single transaction that take place throughout our country throughout the year. So all of our buying, all of our selling, according to research, our UK economy is worth £1.5 trillion. So what is affecting our economy and what do we need to consider? And it's a little bit of a consolidation from everything that we've learned at 1.5. So anything at all that affects supply and demand, what we buy and what we sell is affecting our economy. So there's just a few pictures around here that sort of explains kinds of things. So, and we've got the 9/11 terror attacks that affected the US economy massively. You could do some research into how much that actually had an impact on the US and all the surrounding countries, including us. Obviously, you're not going to need it for a year exam, but you need to understand how something like that does affect the economy. Frozen Britain, so we've had a lot of really bad winters. That's affected the economy. Think of the type of businesses that snow really impacts upon. Legislation, absolutely massive. Things like minimum wage, national living wage, benefits, all that kind of thing. When they change legislation, even in terms of health and safety, then the business has to adapt. So that might cost them in terms of training and staffing. Interest rates that we've been through and exchange rates. So interest rates and exchange rates is just really how much money we are able to buy things for. So for example, our interest rates is how much that loan is going to cost us, and exchange rates might be favourable if we've got a strong pound, or it might be unfavourable if we've got a weak pound. But that would depend, wouldn't it? Have a look at the exchange rate video if you need more information on that. So things that affect our economy, in brief, but there's loads. Interest rates, exchange rates, government policy, changes in consumer spending or consumer saving, the weather and climate around us, advancements in technology, and any other unpredictable events. So these kind of things, probably the major ones, the ones that the kind of ones that you're going to see in an exam scenario listed here. So we're going to look at two different businesses now and how they've changed to the current economic climate, looking at their ups and downs. So we've got two businesses, McDonald's and Tesco, and what we'll do is we'll talk about how they've reacted to the coronavirus pandemic. So if you want to have a think about that, pause the video and then we'll go over it together. So, Tesco. This corona pandemic has made demand really high for food. Everyone seems to be in the supermarket, so footfall is high. Supplies are low. You will have seen it yourself, I'm sure. Empty shelves, no toilet roll, no pasta. Legislation has now been put in place about cleaning, social distances, so they've got to keep 2 metres apart and obviously disinfect. The responses to that is they're hiring more staff to meet demand. They're purchasing more regularly to make sure these shelves are full. It might mean that their suppliers are either struggling to meet them or they're thinking, woohoo, this is brilliant because we're getting more business and trade. Store times have had to be adapted. Tesco used to be 24/7. Now they cannot possibly do that. They can't staff it because of illness and things like that. So what they're doing is now they're closing at 10 o'clock. To restock and then opening at 8. So store times have shut. Staff training now on the new legislation. From what I hear from people who I know, they've had 3 hours training on cleaning, disinfecting. They've had new rotas in place, new internal policies to make sure that things are cleaned and cleaned well. 24/7 deliveries. I know people who are now getting a 3 a.m. delivery. Never happened before, but what they're trying to do is to get more food out to the vulnerable and the ill and the isolated. So what they're doing is upping their delivery and making that 24/7. Also, technology has had to be adapted. There are now queues on the website to get on there, so the technology has had to change. What they're now doing is trying to limit the amount of people that get online deliveries unless you're isolated or elderly. In a nutshell, are Tesco more profitable? Only time will tell. I would kind of like to think that they were seeing an increase in business and an increase in profits. Do they increase their price on these goods that we know are really high in demand? That would also be debatable. But they could, in essence, put products up because they know people want them. Now, McDonald's response is totally different. Although very similar, they both provide food, but this one's hot food, this one's takeaway, this is a restaurant. Demand was high for McDonald's. Customer footfall kind of was still high. I did see people absolutely queuing the last day of its opening. Supplies were low, they were running out at that time, but then legislation hit with social distancing, cleaning, and then the closure of restaurants. So McDonald's had to close its door to customers to keep people safe. Now, how have they responded to this? Staff have been furloughed or made redundant, and what that means is they've been laid off. The job is safe and secure. The government are going to pay them 80% of their wage, and they would be expected to do voluntary or charity work until their McDonald's doors open again, or they were made redundant, jobless, and them staff were expected to go elsewhere. Majority of them staff are now working at Tesco's and other supermarkets. They've had to cancel contracts. They've had to cancel contracts with suppliers, so that might mean the regular daily beef burgers that were coming in are no longer there. The potatoes, all that kind of thing that they would have had almost daily, no longer there. That's had a massive knock-on effect on McDonald's suppliers, because if you supply beef to McDonald's, you'll be a bit, I haven't got that work anymore. So that has a massive effect on that supply chain. And mind you, McDonald's employ something like 135,000 people. So you've got to think about all them people now no longer in work, and then a knock-on effect on all them employees that work within McDonald's supply chain. Costs are high. Just because they've got rent and they've got fixed costs, and all these things, and fixed costs are costs that do not change whether you make one product or a million products, they still have to be paid for. If you've got a loan as a franchisee, you've still got to pay for it. If you've got rent to pay to your landlord, you've still got to pay for that. And because you're not making any money, that would mean that your costs are very high and your sales revenue is very low. So profits might be small, non-existent, in minus figures, who knows. The website, though, as a whole, McDonald's then focusing on other things. They've got the app, they've got educational, they've got kids' games. They're probably looking forward to the future, adapting and training that way, maybe preparing for the next season, so to speak. Who knows what's happening behind the scenes up above, but I assume it would be marketing strategies and improving the websites and apps. Lots of focus on charity work as well, that I have noticed. So again, keeping in the media, keeping up the brand reputation until the doors open once more. In the exam, my top tip to you is highlight the changes in the current climate. It could be anything, exchange rates, it could be interest rates, it could be unemployment. So you've got to make sure you understand what that change in the economy is. Then what you've got to do is think about the impact it has on that particular business, positive impacts and negative impacts, and it must be in context. Every single business in the exam will be totally different, just like the McDonald's and Tesco's. Some are winning, some are losing in this current crisis. And that's exactly the same with exchange rates and interest rates. There's always going to be winners and losers. So you need to make sure that you can understand that and make sure it's in context in your exam. Any questions? You know how to contact me. See you later.